Hey, Mark. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me. Guys, I'm here in Utah, actually Soldiers Hollow, where the Olympics took place.
That's right.
And I'm here with Mark DeYoung and the brand new 2020 Camry. And here's the three letters that make it special, right? AWD, all-wheel drive. And Mark, you're the chief engineer.
That's right.
So let's start by first talking about the car, then doing a walk around, making kind of sure that we show you the entire car. And then kind of wrapping up with when it's on sale. But first and foremost, why did you decide to do an all-wheel drive Camry? I mean, there hasn't been an all-wheel drive Camry since what, 1990?
1991, that's
the
right.
The All-Track, right?
That's right, long time ago.
So how did you get to the point where we now have an all-wheel drive Camry?
You know, for Toyota, we're doubling down on sedans.
Yep.
And one of the ways to do that is we see some people going to SUVs, but if we can offer an all-wheel drive, we think that's one way to keep them in sedans. But also we've listened to the customers. You know, a lot of the customers in the northern areas have been wanting this for a long time, and we're finally able to offer it to them.
Well, let me show you something. If you turn the camera around, you'll see that you guys have set up kind of a, snow cross, literally,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
Where we get to take the car out on it's not really ice, it's snow.
Yep.
And see how it does. But today we're not going to be talking about how it drives. We're going to be talking about kind of how the all-wheel drive system works. Now, Toyota has a lot of different all-wheel drive vehicles, right? It starts with the new Prius, goes to the Camry, you've just announced an Avalon, then there's of course the crossovers and the SUVs. Tell me about this all-wheel drive system. How does it work?
Yeah, this system we call the dynamic torque control system. And what we have is we have the prop shaft going to the rear, and we have in the rear diff, electromechanically, it will decouple itself or kick in.
Right.
So when we start out from 0 to about 15, 16 miles per hour, the all-wheel drive is always on, sending 50% of the torque to the rear. And then after that, it will kick off if it notices that it's not necessary. So then once it decouples, that's going to help for fuel economy, right? So it's not dragging down the vehicle at all. And then as you're driving at all speeds, it's always looking at the ECUs, the driving, the steering input, and if it's detecting that it needs to kick in, it will kick in. So it's constantly monitoring.
So it's kind of a power takeoff, right? Basically,
You've
got power coming from the motor into the engine into the rear wheels, and then there's a diff back there that sends power left to right, right?
That's right.
And you can basically decouple that drive shaft so that you're not setting power. Is that a simple layman's way of explaining it?
That's a perfect way to explain it, yes.
All right, but some of the other systems are actually more sophisticated, right? If we're looking at right there, that's the Highlander. You show them that, right? That's the Highlander. That one has actually torque vectoring.
That's right.
Explain that system so people are, nope, that one doesn't have torque vectoring.
It might, right? But I'm definitely not the expert on the torque vectoring.
Okay, so
I'm a little bit afraid to go into the wrong detail on that.
How about the Prius? Are you an expert on that?
Well, the Prius has the electric motor in the rear.
Right.
And so we have mechanical all-wheel drive. That's kind of what we call the E all-wheel drive.
Okay.
And that operates a little bit differently. That's like from 0 to 6 miles per hour on takeoff, and then up to 43 miles per hour maximum. So a little bit different in the Prius. Prius is all about the fuel economy and that type of vehicle. But for Camry and Avalon, we're looking at that mechanical all-wheel drive system.
Well, let's open up the hood and let's look under the hood, because under the hood is one thing that is missing in the all-wheel drive, and that is the V6, right? There's no 6-cylinder.
There is no 6-cylinder.
It's just a 4. Yeah, so let me pop the hood. There you go. And this is the 4-cylinder.
It is. So we thought about it when we were first figuring out that we wanted to do all-wheel drive. We said, should we do the V6 or should we do the 4-cylinder? Now the take rate for the Camry V6 is pretty low. But
you said, like 6%.
It's about 6%.
And you sell over 300,000 of these every year, right?
That's right.
So that's in the maybe tens of thousands at most.
Right. Yeah.
That's not a big number for a car that sells, I think 330,000 last year.
Right. You know, and if we're looking for what do most buyers want? They want the 4-cylinder.
Okay.
But so we built a mule 4-cylinder with the all-wheel drive.
Yep.
And we drove it, and we said, this feels fantastic. We're very happy with this. And so that's why we used it in Camry and we used it in Avalon as well.
Yeah, and then the one thing that you did do is you pretty much kept the torque and the horsepower almost identical, right? So we're looking at a little bit over 180 pound-foot of torque and a little bit over 200 horsepower, but you lost a little bit. You lost like 1 horsepower and a couple torques. What happened there?
Yep. So as we're looking at the exhaust and trying to get the exhaust and the prop shaft down the center tunnel, the exhaust is just a little bit smaller.
Yep.
So that small change it caused us to have to reduce the horsepower just a little bit. It reduces horsepower.
But it's not much. And we can't talk about fuel economy because that's embargoed, and we can't talk about driving impressions. But I think it would be fair for me to say, right, that this is not going to get better fuel economy because it weighs more.
That's fair.
Yeah, okay, all right. Because we're looking at what, about 200 pounds or so, depending on the model, for the extra prop shaft and all-wheel drive system that you need on top of the regular front-wheel drive.
Yep, we've got about 165 pounds overall.
Right.
About 35 pounds up front, 130 in the rear for the rear diff and everything. So.
And the other thing we can't talk about yet is, of course, pricing. That's going to come in about a week, but I think it'd also be fair to say that this is going to be a little bit more expensive than the regular Camry because you're getting a little bit more capability.
Yeah, what we are talking about pricing for right now is we're seeing about $1,500.
Okay, more.
For the Camry.
All right, that's fair. And do you expect people in places like here to be buying these? I mean, this is not something that I guess if you're in Florida, you're going to need.
Right.
But if you're here in Utah or, you know, where I'm from, Denver, is this what this is targeted to?
Absolutely. You know, we've been hearing from customers in those areas that they want this. They want a Toyota.
Yeah.
And they want a sedan, and they've been asking for all-wheel drive. So we're finally giving it to them, and we're very happy to be doing so.
So let's see how much room we got back in the trunk. I mean, the great thing about big old American sedans is just the amount of room you get. Look at all that. We've got all of our gear in here, and we could probably easily put like 2 seriously sized suitcases and a couple roller boards, and there'd be no problem.
Yeah, there's no difference in luggage space between the front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive.
And you said this is the only way you know.
That's how you know right there.
Yeah?
That's about it.
That's about it, huh?
Yeah.
And have you already started taking orders from dealerships? I mean,
ooh, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, fair enough. And you also kept the dual exhaust coming out the back, the quad exhaust actually. Was that on purpose?
Absolutely.
Did you want to keep that look?
Oh yeah. So for XSE, you know, the sport grades, we have that quad exhaust.
Yep.
We kept it. For the LE grades, we have the single exhaust, so we kept it. So it's really no difference between the front-wheel drive.
And what's your favorite kind of design feature? You know, once upon a time when I was growing up, right, Camrys and Accords were kind of the bread and butter family vehicles. And now you look at this thing and it's sporty. I mean, you know, you've got diffusers, you've got spoilers.
Yeah, one of the things that I just always draws my eye is the black roof.
Yeah.
I just love this line. Because this line is it's a little bit subtle.
Yep.
But when you put the black roof on there, it really pulls the vehicle together.
And if you're talking about an all-wheel drive vehicle, I think we have to talk about tires and wheels. So same tires and wheels on the front-wheel drive as the all-wheel drive?
They are exactly the same. Same size wheels and carry over all-season tires.
Okay, so these are basically something you could use all year round. They look pretty good. What kind are these? These look like they're...
these are Bridgestones.
Bridgestones, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, there you have it. Your very first look at Toyota's new all-wheel drive Camry, and you've done the same treatment to the Avalon, isn't that right?
We sure did.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so if you're looking for that big old family sedan, not the mid-size one, but you know, the one that is the ultimate, then you can now get it in an all-wheel drive Avalon, and that's going to be a whole different video. Well, Mark, I really appreciate you taking the time to show me the car. And guys, remember, go back to TFL Car, TFL Truck, TFL Now, you know all the channels, for more news, views, and your first look at the brand new Toyota all-wheel drive Camry. See you guys next time. Ciao.
Thank you.